Here lately, I've been noticing a massive shift in people and what I would call a disturbing trend. And let me know in the comments below if you've witnessed this, but I'm telling you, people these days, they are becoming very unhinged over pretty much nothing. Like the smallest thing is setting people off now. And it actually is very disturbing. I'm starting to kind of get concerned about this because, I mean, I haven't been alive that long, 40 years, but throughout my 40 years, I have never seen people lose their cool and just fly off the handle over small, stupid things like they do today. And this seems to have increased exponentially over the last 5 years. I'll tell you a little story here real quick, all right? So I sat down with a friend of mine over the weekend, and this particular friend, he's been managing convenience stores for the last, I think, 30 or 40 years. It's been a long time. And, you know, he was telling me all these crazy stories of these things that go on in these convenience stores. And I'm just sitting there like listening to these stories. He has pictures and stuff of some of the crazy stuff that goes on. And one prime example of this one's kind of far out there, but he showed me a picture of this guy standing next to a gas pump at night, you know, the lights shine down and stuff. And this guy has an ironing board next to the gas pump. He's got his shirt on there and an iron, not plugged in, and he's ironing his shirt. Obviously, this guy is probably off his rocker. He's probably on drugs, but that just highlights where we're at in society right now. There's a lot of really weird people out there doing a lot of really weird things, and it has gotten so bad in some of his stores that he's had to remove the baby changing stations from the bathrooms because people are going in there and they're shooting up drugs and they're leaving their paraphernalia on these baby changing stations. They're leaving white nose powder on these baby changing stations, and it has gotten just horrible. As a matter of fact, he's had people go into the bathrooms of his stores and shoot up on certain drugs and pass out in the bathrooms, and they have to get the fire department there to open the bathroom doors because they lock themselves inside, and they pass out in front of the door so you can't open the door. So they got to call the fire department in to get these people out. He's had people pass out at the entrance of some of his stores. And there are just so many things. There's so many crazy things that it would be impossible to list. But this is a daily occurrence. This happens every single day at pretty much all of his stores that he manages. So I asked him, point blank, I'm like, look, you've been doing this for a long time now. Of that time you've been doing this, have you noticed a shift? Have you noticed a change? Is there a certain period where it seems like these things have gotten worse? Or is this something that you've always dealt with? And his answer to me was actually kind of shocking, because I did not say anything about me feeling the way I feel about how things have changed. I didn't say anything about the last 5 years and me thinking that people have kind of gotten crazy and out of hand over the last 5 years. I didn't say any of that. I just asked him that simple question. And his answer to me was absolutely. Since the 19 epidemic, 2020, people have lost their minds. That is exactly what he told me. He said never in his life, his 30 or 40 years of doing this, has he witnessed the things he's witnessing now. He said he had a person one time that came in one of his stores and they needed to go to the bathroom. But this person in particular had stolen stuff from that store before, and apparently they've been caught on camera stealing stuff. The employees have caught this person stealing stuff. So they told him point blank, you're not using the bathroom in here. You need to get out because we know you've been stealing, and we're not going to let you use the bathroom because you're probably just going in there to either do drugs or to try and steal more stuff. So the person got mad. They walked out the front doors, dropped their pants, and did a number 2 right at the entrance of that store in broad daylight. Broad daylight, people around trying to go in and out of the store, and he's out there dropping trowel in the middle of the sidewalk, essentially. I mean, people have lost their freaking minds. And again, let me know down in the comments below if you all have witnessed this. These aren't just drugged out people either I'm talking about here. I've noticed this all over the place. I used to work in a big city back before I retired myself from the workforce. And one of my coworkers actually went out on lunch, and they went out to buy some food at the dollar store. And they came back and they were all shook up because while they were in the dollar store, 2 people came in there with a cart, and they literally were just walking down the aisles, shoving stuff in the cart. And they wheeled that cart right outside, loaded their van down with it, and tried to drive off. And my coworker, being the awesome person that they are, they took pictures of the license plate, they called the police and turned them in. And they went back in there and talked to the employees, and the employees are like, well, this happens all the time. There's really nothing we can do about it, because, you know, employees aren't supposed to intervene, which they really shouldn't, because they don't get paid enough, number one, to intervene. And number two, they shouldn't put their lives on the line for their job. It's not their job to do that. There are people that get paid to do that. But the fact that people are able to just walk into stores and just steal stuff and have no qualms about it whatsoever. They have no integrity, no sense of pride of who they are. They just walk in and steal stuff like they own the place. And to me, that is absolutely freaking baffling. It's like, where have we gone in society where these types of things have been normalized, where people do this kind of stuff and they don't feel bad about it? Because back in my day, we had morals, we had ethics, we had a moral code that we lived by. And that moral code usually kept us from doing that kind of crazy stuff. And then getting back to the topic about people just generally being unhinged, that's a big thing too. People just lose their cool over the smallest things now. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard from friends of mine that they've been in a store and there will be some sort of exchange between them and some other person. Like maybe they go to get in a line to check out and there's another person coming and they'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. Go ahead and get in front of me. And the person will just lose their mind. And just a couple months ago, there was another one of my friends that was telling me a story. They were walking down the street in the middle of their neighborhood next to their apartment complex, and there was somebody that was coming towards them, and they did not do anything. They literally had their headphones in. They were walking down the street, looking down, and the person walking towards them started screaming hysterically at them, calling them all kinds of names for no reason, just yelling at them about crazy stuff. And they were just like caught very off guard, like, what the heck's going on here? I didn't do anything. What did I do wrong? This stuff is wild. And this is somebody that lived or lives in their apartment complex. So they have to face this person every time they go outside. Every time they're walking around the hallways, they walk by this person and they're just scratching their head wondering, like, what did I do wrong? This is the first interaction they had with this person, and they flew off the handle for no reason whatsoever. And the only thing they can think is that person is just so miserable, they needed to take it out on somebody. And they just happened to be there at the wrong place at the wrong time. But this kind of stuff is happening, and it's happening a lot more often than it used to, because I can think back on my life and this kind of stuff never happened when I was growing up. And just like what my friend told me about the stores he manages, things have gotten completely out of control over the last 5 years specifically. There's something that has happened within that time frame that has changed people drastically, and it's impossible to ignore. Now, me personally, I have not had these types of things happen, but I also don't put myself into society that much. I'm generally out here on the farm with my dog, and I only go to town when I absolutely need to. If I need to buy food or I need to pick something up, aside from that, I don't go out much. I'm kind of a hermit nowadays, and that's coming from somebody who used to travel 50 to 75% of the year. I was in major cities and around people all the time, thousands and thousands of people. But these days, I have no desire to do that because of the way things are kind of shaping up. Things have gotten really out of hand. And I can't quite put my finger on exactly what's happening, why people are becoming so unhinged and just losing their cool over the smallest of things. But it seems to me like people are just pitted against each other. There's so much division that has been sown between us. And I think people are just so tightly wound these days because they're under so much stress and there's so much pressure, and all these things are going on around us that we really don't have any control over. And I think that's causing people to lose their cool. I think people are essentially reaching their breaking point, and they're taking it out on the people around them. And another thing I think is happening is that disrespecting each other has been normalized. That is something that people do, and they've gotten very comfortable in doing that. And the thing that has brought that on is the internet. People get on the internet, they get on social media, and it's so easy to just talk trash on there, to disrespect people, and to just be rude for no reason whatsoever. And people do this because they know there's no consequences. They know that they can get online, they can say whatever they want to whoever they want, and nothing's going to happen to them. And I think it was Mike Tyson that said people have gotten too comfortable talking crap to other people and not being punched in the mouth for it. And I really think that's what's happening. And I think because of that, that's bleeding into their actual lives. It's bleeding into reality. Because if you think about people that get online, they get on social media, a lot of times they create a persona. It's this alternate identity that they create, and then they put that online. And usually it's the best parts of their lives. Usually, it's the highlight reels. But along with that alternate identity, there's some bad things that can creep in there too. And those bad things are, like I said, people just talking trash to one another and being comfortable with it because they know there's no real consequences. And I feel like social media has also caused people to become very unhappy with their lives because, again, people are showcasing the best parts of their lives. And that's what we're all comparing ourselves to. And when you're doing that and you see everybody living this amazing life, what you think is an amazing life, you can get down on yourself about your own life. And that can cause you to become very unhappy, and maybe that's where people are at. And it's really hard to say exactly what's causing this, but I think it's a combination of all that. I think all these things that are surrounding us and are just kind of inundating us in our daily lives, I think all these things are causing people to fly off the handle and become very unhinged. And that causes people like me and people like probably so many of you out there who just want peace, it causes us to withdraw from society. Who wants to be a part of that? Who wants to take part in a society that is just pitted against one another, that has no respect for their fellow man or their neighbors, and who is just so ready to attack somebody over the smallest of things that really don't matter? Because if you think about our lives and the things that we think matter, nothing really matters. In the grand scheme of things, all these petty, small, insignificant things don't matter, because at the end of the day, we're all going to wind up in the same place. And when we're 80 or 90 years old and we're looking back at our lives, none of this small, petty stuff is going to matter. It is all so very insignificant. But if you get stuck in these little bubbles and these boxes that we create for ourselves, it can be hard to see the big picture, and it can be hard to understand that. And a lot of people also don't realize that when you have that much negativity in your heart, then it bleeds through in the rest of your life. It causes you to be miserable, and it causes the people around you to be miserable. Any sense of drive and ambition that you might have had is going to be stripped from you. Any sense of happiness and peace and fulfillment is going to be stripped from you. Any sense of purpose is going to be removed from your life. When you're that unhappy and you're just ready to fly off the handle over simple, small, stupid things, your life is probably going to be pretty miserable. And not only that, but it's also going to attract negative people into your life, because there's not many people that want to be around that kind of negativity, except for the people that are also miserable. Misery loves company. It is very, very true. And I feel like if that's the way you feel, and if that's how you live your life, that's going to be reflected in every aspect of your life. And I think the best thing that we can do to combat this is, well, I guess we have a couple of choices. So number one, you could be like me and you could just kind of retreat from society and not go into town as often and stay away from people as often as you possibly can. That's not a good option, though. We shouldn't have to do that. So the other option is quelling the division. Stop allowing yourself to get worked up about all these petty, stupid things that occur in our daily lives, because in a lot of cases, a lot of these things are kind of outside of our control. The things that are going on overseas and the things that the government's doing, and all the stuff that comes out through mainstream media that kind of brings negativity into our lives, for the most part, we don't have a whole lot of influence over that stuff. And that's not to say that we don't hold the power for change, because we absolutely do. But it's important to realize that you can't take on the entire world all by yourself. If you want to make a change, that's awesome. But if you do want to make a change, focus on the small things. Focus on the things that are around you, that are in your immediate control. And then you can work up from there. Don't allow these things to build up, because that's what happens. There are so many things that are pummeling us every single day that it does build up. It accumulates, and eventually it starts to weigh us down. It starts to become more than we can handle. And then I think we're just reaching the point where we snap. So instead of allowing that to happen, distance yourself from social media. Distance yourself from the news, mainstream media. Distance yourself from politics. Distance yourself from anything that is bringing negativity into your life. When you do that, I can almost guarantee that you're immediately going to feel a lot better, and you're going to feel like a weight has been lifted off your shoulders. There was a time in the not so distant past where I was allowing these things to get to me. I was caught up in watching the news and following politics, and everything just looked very bleak, and it was very disheartening, and it got me down. But I realized what was happening, and I was able to remove myself from that situation and create an environment for myself that was less toxic. And that's really what it's all about. Creating a less toxic environment for yourself. If you have toxic people in your life, remove those people from your life, because they're not doing you any good. If you have toxic things that you're allowing in your life, like social media, like the internet, like mainstream media, take time away from that stuff. Get out in nature, walk around, spend time admiring the beautiful world around us. And these things, these natural things, they're going to put you in a better mood. When you're stuck in a concrete jungle and all you see are squares and geometric shapes, these lines and these shapes simply don't exist in nature. That is not what we're used to. So now that we're surrounded by concrete, and we're surrounded by things that are so symmetrical and so unnatural, I think in general it just confuses us. It puts us in a hyperactive state, and I would say a state of general stress. And if that's the foundation that you're building off of, it's not a good thing, because with all the other stuff that we're surrounded by and all the other things that we're subjected to, if you're already stressed by default, then it's going to be very easy for the scales to be tipped in one direction and for you to just lose your cool, like all these other people seem to be doing these days. And I really do believe that this is fundamentally important to, number one, realize what's going on, and number two, also understand what we can do to combat this, because if things continue in the direction that we're headed right now, I don't think it's looking too good for our society. And I really don't know how much more of this we can handle, because if people just stop going out and interacting and socializing because everybody is so angry and they're so willing to fight one another, then society as a whole is going to stop functioning, or at least it's going to stop functioning in the way that we know it. And there's going to be a lot of very lonely, very isolated people out there, and that's not the way to live. We are social beings, and for some people, they need that interaction. It's very important to them. Not all of us have to have it, but for the people that do, we shouldn't be fearful of going out in public, and we shouldn't feel like we have to walk on eggshells when we're around other people for fear of them flying off the handle and screaming at us, or wanting to fight us, or disrespecting us for no real reason at all. And I also believe that it's fundamentally important to be grateful. Have gratitude, not just for the things that you have, but for the things that you don't. Because again, it can be very easy to get stuck in that cycle of constantly comparing yourself to other people and getting down on yourself because there are certain things in your life that you don't have, and other people just seem to be living their best life and you don't. And it seems like no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to get there. But just always remember that you're only seeing the highlight reels. You're only seeing what these people want you to see. And there is a pretty good chance that if you think you're miserable and you think your life sucks, their life probably sucks even worse. And that's probably why they're showcasing the best parts of their life, so that they can feel better about themselves. So be grateful that that's not you. Be grateful that you're not the person out there showcasing the best parts of your life, because that probably means that you're actually living a pretty good life. You just may not realize it. And there's probably a lot of people out there that have it much worse than you. But regardless of what the underlying cause is that has caused this drastic shift in people over the last 5 years or so, things need to change. Because if they don't, we're going to be in a very bad position 5 or 10 years from now, and our future is not going to look too good. So I think it's very important that we focus on this. It's very important to spread awareness about this, and more importantly, I think it's very important to inject as much positivity as we possibly can into the world around us, because the world around us, it needs it. And I would say small actions go a long way. We can all make a difference just by injecting a little bit of positivity into the world every single day, or as often as we possibly can. Say hi to people in the street. Get to know your neighbor. Give people compliments. Hold the door for people. A lot of times these things aren't going to be appreciated, and they're probably not going to be reciprocated, but we have to keep trying, because if we don't keep trying, then we're part of the problem. And there's a chance that we'll end up in the same position as all these other people, and we'll be just as unhappy, just as unfulfilled, and just as unhinged as they are. And I don't know about you, but I definitely do not want that.